Welcome to radicalwellnesstv.com. This is Timothy and Robert, and they have some interesting things to talk about.
Welcome to Branch Mill Organic Farm and Retreat Center. I'm Robert. I manage the farm here, and this is Timothy, who's going to tell us today about some wonderful things. Please.
Hopefully. Okay, so anyway, what can I tell you? I'm bringing kind of a new technology in here. I work with the farm here, Branch Mill Organic Farm, Robert and Ruth and the crew, and basically what I'm operating from a whole different standpoint. Most of agriculture and most of what's out there now is from what I call a three-dimensional perspective. In other words, for instance, conventional agriculture or organic agriculture, both, they operate within the realm of what I call the physical chemical, and that's basically using physical chemical means, either organic physical chemical or chemical, man-made chemical, to elicit a response from agriculture, from our bodies, from nature, etc. What I do, and the people that I was mentored by and the scientists that we've all picked up on, what we do is we look at not just the physical chemical, but what we call the realm of the magnetic electrical. Our planet is magnetic and electrical, by the way. We've got a gravitational field. We've got two Van Allen belts. We have all this cosmic radiation that's coming in on our planet and creating this whole electrical system, which is really what's making everything grow. And that's why when it rains, everything just picks up, because it's bringing all of this electric magnetic energy into the soil, into the plants, and it just charges them, like the Ever-Ready Bunny, for instance. And so anyway, I and the people that I've been schooled by and the scientists all use these principles. And then also there's a third realm that's a little bit more esoteric. I refer to it as the cosmic etheric, and it has to do with a little more, it's a little more esoteric. I don't know if you're familiar with biodynamics and Rudolf Steiner. We use all of Rudolf Steiner's principles in this. The yin and yang of the Chinese. We also use the, what do you say? It's a little bit more like homeopathic, where we actually use what I call energetic signatures to elicit response from nature, because everything's energy. Robert was asking me, I got a background in particle physics and engineering, and one of the things Robert was asking me earlier about particle physics, how do you look differently at things from a view of particle physics? Well, in particle physics, nothing's there. It's all energy. Like if you take an atom and blow it up to the size of, say, a football field, for instance. I don't know if you know how big the nucleus and how big the electron, we think in terms of a nucleus and electron, how big those would be if you blew that up to the size of a football field. Do you know, Robert?
What is it? The football in the field is the nucleus, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, a little bit smaller, actually.
Okay.
Maybe more like a plum, and the electron would be like a grape, for instance. But the point here is it's all space. But these particles move sometimes at near speeds of light that give us this illusion of what we call matter. And so this is, I sometimes refer to it as an energetic hologram, because really all it is space with energy. But it's the electrons of this table or Robert's leg bouncing against the electrons in my hand that keep them from interpenetrating to each other. So they're basically fields, energy fields that are touching each other. And so what we're doing is we're working with that system, that understanding of giving energy to this energetic system to elicit response from that energetic system. That's the way homeopathics works. That's the way biodynamics works. Even the magnetic electrical, which Tesla, most people are pretty familiar with Nikola Tesla. That's one of the things he was tapping into when J.P. Morgan pulled the plug on his project. So anyway, that's kind of an overview, a little bit, if that makes sense.
That's a great bit of background. And could you describe for us, I'd say the products or the ways that you're, in addition to the education you do, these workshops, which is where I first heard about your work at. Well, I'd met you in a few conversations before, and had heard, biodynamics was played a role here, and we're on the farm and we use your amendment for our transplants. We're growing organic vegetables, herbs, and some rare fruit varieties that your amendments have been huge for supporting the health of these plants and organisms, and the taste, you can taste it, you can feel it. But what are the different offerings you have for other folks aside from education? Like, I know you've got the soil amendments and supplements. Could you describe those kind of quickly for each, and then we can kind of dig into them more? Yeah.
Well, the soil amendment, the one that Robert's talking about here we call it, it's a transplant accelerator. And what it is, actually I don't have a bag with me, but when you open it and smell it, it's alive. We're pretty excited when we kind of came across this. And what it is, it's a living soil. If you look in nature here, and the grass and the trees here, nobody has fertilized these. Nature's done all this. And the thing is I ask the question sometimes, I say, well, the air is 78% nitrogen. Why are we putting, nitrogen fertilizers, whether it be chemical or organic, on plants, on the soil? Nature's not putting chemical fertilizers or organic fertilizers on the soil here. So what's actually doing this? Well, what's happening are these plants are getting access to what I call the latent forces in nature. And what this transplant accelerator basically does is mimics what that soil does in a natural setting. In other words, if you can't take your garden to the mountain, we bring the mountain to your garden. And
that's huge.
Yeah.
Because we've got a big problem. I mean, ever since the 1920s, the formation of the Soil Conservation Corps to address topsoil loss, which is a problem we've still got. That our conventional practices tend to erode away the soil with all those healthy bits that you're describing that are so critical for health.
Yeah. Yes.
And so you've got another amendment you had mentioned to me when we met up this morning. You say is a drench?
Is a for the rejuvenator.
Yes.
For water?
Tell us about that.
Oh yeah,
one.
I was just telling them about we have this new product. Well, it's new. Actually, we've been doing it. I've been doing it for several years. Basically, it incorporates all of these principles, and it's a liquid that we've actually created, and it includes all of Rudolf Steiner's. It connects with what I call the cosmic grid with the Earth grid. And within that, we inoculate that with some pretty nifty biologicals that are found in natural soil and evolutionary processes, primeval processes that are found in nature. What we do is we inoculate that, and we put like a gallon per acre of water, for instance. It goes in and it just cleans the water. Like for instance, lakes. I have one gentleman that's actually, we're dialoguing right now about making this available on a larger scale. But what this does is let's say they have this one lake with a lot of algae growing. Well, algae is a sign of undigested nutrients in the water and sunlight. Well, algae just shows up. If you build it, they will come. Yeah, I mean, soil, plants, our own bodies, water, anything, whatever we produce will show up. It's nature's way of dealing with anything. The algae is just there to break up these undigested nutrients and turn them back into usable products of nature, and so that nature and people and whatever can use this. Well, what happens is when we got too many of these, whether it be pollution or surface runoff from rains or whatever, we get too many of these pollutants, and this algae grows. Well, it can pull all the oxygen out of the
those
out
fish
of the water.
die-offs.
The fish die. It can be, problematic. I mean, people they stay away from it. They don't want to go swim in, a lot of algae there. So what this does basically is putting it in there is it biologically remediates this. I mean, within a day or two, I remember we put some in the waterway down in Santa Barbara, and it was all covered with algae. We put some in, and within a day or two, it cleaned it up. Birds came in. I mean, we had one time we put this on a lake, and like 13 white Canadian geese came flying around and landed on it. It was in the middle of all these farm fields, and everybody was like mesmerized, So it's really pretty magical. That's pretty neat.
That's potent stuff, because I see, the birds really indicate to me how energy moves around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'm thinking of is we're cultivating here on the farm is, how nice it would be if our farm was also like a wildlife refuge.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the birds come through is, I think, one of the biggest measures of success for our agriculture.
I was actually talking with this not biodynamics, but with this Berkeley professor. She teaches what do you call it? Sorry. What you were just talking about, biodiversity. And anyway, one of the things they found around organic farms is that biodiversity has a tendency to go up. Well, what we've noticed working with these energies and with the natural systems is that it actually strengthens and helps the biodiversity of all creatures, the numbers, the different types. It's very phenomenal, very amazing, the types of birds that'll come in. We've done projects where the birds would come in, they go, I've never even seen a bird like that before, so it's pretty neat.
They show up when you start catering to their needs.
Yeah, so does that make sense? I mean, yeah.
Okay, well, I want to return to that. I'd like to know a bit, so did you study biodynamics first at Findhorn in Scotland?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, I didn't really study biodynamics. I mean,
was that later when you had gotten together with other scientists?
With other scientists, exactly. Yeah, and so I actually left school. I think I mentioned this before, but I left school to go to Findhorn, Scotland. It's a place. Right. Yeah.
Yes. So you left. You were going to school for particle physics and engineering.
At senior year at Notre Dame.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
I was studying. I was working under one of the most world-renowned high energy professors, Dr. John Mihalik there.
Okay.
Okay.
And so what was it that you did find at Findhorn that informed your work later?
Well, what they were doing was this gets a little more esoteric, but they were tuning into nature more, and they were listening to the plants, you will. There's a book out there called The Secret Life of Plants. Has anybody heard of that? And how the plants respond to your energy, and they were working at this level. Consciously, we're working at this level. In fact, I that's one of the things that I do, and I try to instill within the people that I work in. Like, for instance, when somebody calls a plant, every plant has a purpose. Okay, so the plants that don't grow there, what do we call those? Well, that we don't want, that we need to pull out. What do we call those?
Yeah, the weeds.
Yeah, well, people call them weeds. Well, the thing is they're soil herbs. They're actually herbs that will actually help the soil evolve to the next higher energy level, because everything is evolutionary. everything tends towards a higher, more perfect state.
And that's, you know, coming from permaculture and our role as stewards of ecosystems that are as ecologically productive as they are agriculturally productive to meet our needs and the needs of the wider ecosystem. Often when we're looking at kind of jump-starting systems, our goal is a forest ecology or some mimic of a natural biome. And so to stimulate it maybe with a little bit of disturbance so that the weeds come in and they begin that process. And this is similar to some indigenous slash and burn agriculture practiced in Central and Southern America. You know, and they operate on like a 40-year phase, where for 40 years they start from slashed and burned, and it slowly... They burn it just a couple acres or a couple hectares, and over 40 years it reestablishes itself as a... and there's some better words for it, but it's that kind of top of the evolutionary curve as far as what that system could be. And along the way, they bring little bits that are beneficial to themselves.
Well, and Montecito just had a little bit of slash and burn here recently, down the road here near Santa Barbara. And the thing is what happens is that when that happens, it basically turns all this into hydrocarbons that go into the soil. Well, the rains come, wash it into the soil. Well, nature, now it's a land clearing, and nature can bring in whatever plants it wants to actually evolve the soil to the next higher level. And with that carbon in the soil and the rains, that's why, I mean, after Mount St. Helens, scientists thought nothing would grow there for hundreds of years. Now that there are scientists that go up there and study because they're finding all kinds of plants, all kinds of biodiversity, different insects they've never even seen before, birds, etc.
The birds bring it. It's just really amazing, the fertility and the seeds in their guano that are huge.
And nature, this is one thing that this is kind of something we're bringing out, and that's nature has stored the DNA of all these different species in what I call live crystals in the soil. And if we provide the environment that this can actually evolve, we can see a lot of different evolution, a lot of more biodiversity. I mean, nature really surprises us when we really give it what it needs. It gives it the elements and the support system that it's worthy of, and that we as human beings have the ability to do, as long as we really want to do it and think about it and do it the right way.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
So we were inspired to take part in the stewardship of our environment and the growth of our food, and we're growing according to a lot of methods that come from the French biointensive method, which is to say we feed the soil, we work towards soil carbon sequestration and the biology within it, supporting the bacteriological and the mycological, all the fungal communities that just form this web of life that really brings a lot of health. And so I've appreciated your transplant accelerator for being that bit that we can bring to our soil.
Right. And if you think of Rudolf Steiner, what he says is the energy, the biology that's there is a sign of the energy that's present. So the idea of using biology is good. We use it in our products. We use a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We use some nutrients, we use some biology, and we use energy. And the whole idea here is to get the system into a place. It's said that with biodynamics, Steiner said that if you do his compost after 12 years, the soil, you don't have to do anything to it. It will take care of itself. And that's what we're doing here. What I and the scientists that have mentored me and that we've tapped into is basically we're bringing in other principles to make this happen at a evolutionary rate. I mean, we compress hundreds, if not thousands of years of soil evolution into one season. And that we do a comprehensive comprehensive soil mineral balance. We use injections, sprays, and basically within a year or two, we can turn a soil into just unbelievable health, production, energy. We mentioned last time about the strawberries that we grew. That somebody took these. They took them up to this health show up in San Francisco, and there were two different scientists. I had them on my phone. Their names on my phone. I just deleted it by mistake. But there were two different scientists up there that had tested these strawberries, and they said that conventional produce normally would test about a 1. Organic
On which scale?
Well, their scale was, I usually say on a scale of 1 to 10. It was actually 100, but ours tested 90 out of 100. And it's an energy testing system, and I can find out more for you about what it was they did. But most conventional would test on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Conventional would test about a 1. Organic would test about a 2 or 3. The highest energy of any supplement they'd ever tested were some homeopathic supplements out of Europe, which tested about a 6 or 7, and the strawberries they tested were like a 9. We had people stopping by here in Central Coast, California. We had people stopping by wanting to buy those berries because they not only ate some of them, they heard about them, and they wanted to buy them and take them down to southern California.
And so other people who are interested in, let me see, in some of those soil benefits, but there's this other bit, so there's a supplement you make that you started making for yourself, and had shared it with some friends, and for them, and sometimes for their pets. What's happened there?
Okay, this is really interesting because I just made these for myself. I started back in about the 80s, and I was going to this doctor. He's no longer with us anymore, but I learned so much. In fact, through him, I probably gave me the basis for what I started understanding about agriculture now, and about what natural healing is, and how our bodies heal themselves, and how what we need to do to really bring our bodies up to a high performance level. And I just told him, I was working engineering at the time. I was doing structural engineering. We were doing roads, bridges, laying out monuments for plants. I mean, just a lot of really neat things. And I told him, look, I need something just for my health, my own energy levels, so I can perform well. Well, he gave me a few different recommendations of things but this doctor was really smart, and he gave me these supplements that are just very powerful for nutrients, and kind of supplements that other doctors have taken and empowered, done treatments to, and so I started taking these, and they really helped. Well, as time went by, I came across other supplements, especially as I got into agriculture and just natural healing in general. I came across more of these supplements, so I started incorporating them. And at first, all these different things, there were all these different scientists. I mean, you can't even, it's funny, my friend went to the health show in Los Angeles, and I just gave them names of some of these people, see if they might be there. They weren't there. These were all the big companies trying to sell or whatever. But these scientists are they're few and far between, but they've done things that nobody really knows about, because they're kind of like me. They're not marketers. They're people that
no advertising budget.
No advertising, and they're like Tesla. Everybody knows who Edison was. And actually, all the work that Thomas Edison did came from Nikola Tesla. The radio, even eventually television, all that. Who knows? But that was from Nikola Tesla. He had conquered radio way before Marconi. Marconi's the one they said invented radio. Marconi got it from Tesla. Tesla had conquered radio years before. He was trying. Tesla, when J.P. Morgan shut him down, And he didn't tell Morgan this, but Tesla was actually developing a system that could actually broadcast energy into our atmosphere, into our ionosphere, and all you would need was a device to turn on, and you could plug your house into it and power your home.
Just tune into it.
Just tune into it, yeah. See, of course,
there's a lot of energy we can tune into.
Well, there was no meter to put on it, so J.P. Morgan pulled the plug from him. Yeah. So I know some of you know some of you know about that. So anyway, but that's kind of what we're doing with agriculture. In other words, this whole system is an electrical system, basically. It's an energetic electrical system.
You know, I found, so I was in aircraft avionics before I got into farming, and I can agree with you there that some study of electronic fundamentals and how energy moves through cellular tissues and through our bodies as we metabolize is the patterns in that are so prevalent, and if you learn what indicators to see in the natural world, you can really see it really flowing through. And so I'm just curious about your the supplement, the
supplements, yeah.
You calling them zip pills?
Yeah, the zip caps or zipenergycaps.com. Anyway,
What is it about those that helps your body to be a better utilize energy? And
well, the best way I can explain it is that there was a German physicist, and he became a health reformer. He basically, I don't know if anybody knows Bragg.
Like the Braggs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can buy in the store.
His mentor was Arnold Ehret. And Arnold Ehret he was the one that actually introduced the idea of detoxing, but he was a German physicist, and he got sick, and he ended up healing himself. But he started talking about what he called that health is. He called it health equals. Let's see, what is it? Vitality. V equals E minus O. In other words, vitality equals energy minus obstructions. And he called energy, he said, energy is energy from the universe. He started this physicist was like fasting for like 60, 90 days, and he got healthier. He had no problems. And so what he was saying was that our bodies have the ability to tap into energies that they're really not, as on the average, tapping into these days. And he started finding out about this. Well, now what I say is with quantum physics, we can understand a little bit more of what he's talking about. And so that's what the principles that these supplements, the Zip Energy Caps, operate on. In other words, you take one, what it does is it goes into your system, and instead of having to be digested, because there are nutrients in there, but they're energized nutrients. And what they do is they go into our bodies within 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, some people will take those and they'll go, what is this? I mean, it's like, you can even see it sometimes visually. It's like turning a light bulb on. It actually,
tune your antenna.
Yeah, what it does is it goes in, it actually starts going, the particles, they're colloidalized. They colloidalize in your system.
Now, what is it, colloid?
Colloid is a particle that's charged negative, that has a lot of electrons on it. And what they do is these particles, they colloidalize. You can think of a checkerboard. Okay. Checkers are all evenly spaced, right? When particles are colloidalized, what they do is they're all charged and they push each other apart. So what that means is when they go into your body, and we got these drops, you use 1 drop per quart, it does the same thing. Or these zip caps, what it does is it takes these nutrients, goes right through your cell, your esophagus, right into your bloodstream, goes into your lymph fluids that surround all of our cells. It goes right into our cell membranes and cell mitochondria, and just charges your the mitochondria in our cells, and the cells in our body, and the same thing. The cells in our body ideally should look like checkers on a checkerboard. When they're charged, they push each other apart. What happens is when the cells in our body become discharged, then they start collapsing on each other. And when they do that, then they'll form, there's terms for this, the scientists that actually work with some of these healing centers actually have terms for this process. But when that happens, then nutrients can't get
now
into
they can access.
cannot get into the cells. Well, when that happens, you can't get oxygen, you can't get nutrients, you can't get anything into the cell, and you can't get waste products out. The cell gets sick. So with what these nutrients do, and of course that's what happens when our cells become ill. We get sick organs, and then the sick organs make for a sick organism. What these do is they go in there, they charge these cells, put this charge on them, so all of our cells look like batteries, look like checkers on a checkerboard. Nutrients can go in, oxygen can go in, waste products go out, and that's why when taking these things, animals are phenomenal. We've had animals. One lady left a friend and she was gone on vacation. She said, "My cat will be dead when I get back." And I told her, I says, "Well, here, give him these." She gave him one a day. When the lady came back and saw her cat, the cat was like a kitten again. She says, "I haven't seen him play like that since," and she thought he was going to be gone when she got back. But it actually goes in there, charges these cells, gets nutrients into our cell, and suddenly it's like our cells are all hitting on 8 cylinders again. And then once we've got healthy cells, we've got healthy organs, we've got a healthy organism. Does that make sense?
Healthy together.
Does that make sense? And all nature works like this, see? Whether it be, and the thing, okay, people.
Okay, you guys, it's raining on us. So we gotta end this conversation.
Well, let me finish this one part though, but
and then we'll do a close. Finish this part, we'll do a close, and then
because now what's my train of thought?
Well, we can pick that one up later. So maybe give a brief pitch.
This is what I want to say. People, look. The thing is, okay, everybody thinks if a little is good, a lot is what?
Better.
Well, not necessarily. Sometimes less is more. Right. So the idea is to give everything what it needs. The problem is, especially we do it with chemicals, even organic. When I came to California and I started testing fields, honestly, some of the organic fields were the worst ones I'd ever tested, because they think if they put a lot of something on there. The problem is when you put too much of anything, it's like eating 3 jars of peanut butter. A little peanut butter on some bread is great, but you start eating 1 or 2 or 3 jars of it, we end up with not only what I call constitutional constipation, we get localized compaction, and the same thing, and everything shuts down, and then we get problems. We get nature. What does nature do? But nature sends in insects to take the plants out because the soil's sick. They need to.
The whole system is looking after its own health.
Exactly. It's a whole evolutionary process, and so to us, an insect coming should be biofeedback, telling us that plant needs something we're not giving it. Mm-hmm. And what do? We behead the messenger.
So those principles are important here as we practice permaculture, and the idea to make subtle changes to the systems, observe, react, and respond to those as they go. And so could you kind of briefly just again touch on the products that you sell that support your work, and then we'll say goodbye for now.
Okay. Well, the products that are available, when we get into comprehensive programs like here at the farm, we're talking about doing this too, where we can come in. We actually do like a mineral, biological, and energetic balance on the soil. It's just way out there. We're really doing some pretty neat stuff. But as for products, home products, for instance, we've got a transplant material that, in fact, I just gave some to somebody. That anyway, this place up the road here, what's the name, Farm Supply or whatever, we gave them some to do a control with their leading planting product. A few weeks later, we came back and the lady yelled from a distance, she goes, "Your plant's 3 times larger." This stuff, you can plant things with it, and it basically gives the biology and the minerals and the energy for your plant to actually talk with your soil. In other words, if your plant speaks English and the soil speaks Chinese, this like introduces them and interprets, so they're all speaking the same language. And it just, you know, whenever you plant a plant, you've got a plant growing above the ground and a plant growing below the ground. Well, this basically takes it below the ground so that the plant can actually access the latent forces that are in the air, in the sky, in the sunlight.
That health in the rhizosphere around the roots.
The electrons from outside of our solar system, the ions from our sun. Nature has the ability, we have the ability, we're part of the biosphere. Our bodies have that ability of actually linking into these natural forces. And it doesn't take that much. It just takes a little bit of intelligence, and that's why we created these products. We got the Transplant, we got a spray. I don't know if you know Santa Barbara, but there are these trees on Garden Street, Santa Barbara, if anybody's been there. Well, if you go toward the ocean, there's all these trees along Garden Street there on the west side of 101 toward the ocean that were all insect and whatever that were laden. Well, the arborists took us down there. We sprayed these trees. Go down there now. The trees are just luxurious. We also sprayed the Morton Bay fig tree there at the train station. Everybody knows about that.
Keep that one going.
And the arborist was like, wow, he was just... And in fact, what is it? Pismo Beach, the city manager was just asking me about this because we sprayed one of their trees, one of their palm trees. We saved one of their palm trees. And a lady, we just sprayed her garden the other day. We always sprayed the half full moons. We do everything by the moon cycles as well, too.
That's how we farm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. In fact, your name of your company is...
Yeah. So we're moon phase farmers. We're growing at Branch Mill Organic Farm and Retreat Center. It's raining now again.
So we're going to have to take a break here? Or?
Yeah. Timothy, how do people get in contact with you?
Oh, well, we've got a website, radicalwellnesstv.com. I guess I can, my own personal phone number, or business phone.
Yeah, business phone, go ahead.
Business phone is 805-310-8086. greengoldnaturals.com. Our website's evolutionary, so right now you can sign in and find out more information about the Zip energy caps if you're interested in those, the drops, the transplant material. We have a liquid you can use and also a spray on plants that really taps them into these natural energies and frequencies.
Great. And we're moon phase farmers at moonphasefarmers.com, and happy to join you on Radical Wellness TV. Here's to your health.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys,
bye.